took us a year to find her body. Freddie Grant was arrested for that and eventually pled guilty and is currently serving 30 years. But Miss Laster had been reported missing to Elgin, and we're very confident that Freddie was also responsible for her death. An investigation by the Elgin PD, Kershaw County Sheriff's Department, Richland County, has never stopped since that day. We've continued to investigate it, build up evidence that we could. We just didn't have Miss Laster. Now we have her. After this press conference today, Elgin PD has obtained a warrant for Freddie Grant to charge him with murder. He's going to be charged with her death. Talked to Gabby's mom, let her know what was going on. This is something that she's had to live with all these years. Gabby's mom was a good mom. And I know some people say, well, you know, she allowed a monster into her house, but she did. He stole the key. He came in at the darkness of night and kidnapped Gabby and then killed her. She lives it every day, just like Adriana's family has lived every day with her being missing. Now there's a little bit of closure, and at least they have something that they have of her. They have her. Maybe not all of her, but they have her. They know where she ended up and where she's going to be. And that was our goal when we were investigating Gabby, was to find where Gabby was. And we did a year later. I called Freddie Grant a monster back then, and I'll stand here today and continue to call him a monster because exactly what he was. You know, Elgin PD never wavered in their investigation. Our people never wavered in working with them to build what kind of case that we've got now. He was moved from a medium security prison yesterday to now a different, more secure facility. The Department of Corrections has worked with us on that. We attempted to interview him yesterday. The story is always the same. I'm not talking, which is fine. You know, we will continue to build this case and we'll continue to work, but it took a lot of work, as the coroner said, from the moment those remains were found to continue to look for it, the DNA lab at Richland County to be able to match it up very quickly and identify that as Adriana, and then the investigation that's been going on all these years. When people go missing, they're not forgotten. We continue to look for them. We continue to investigate because that's someone's loved one that they don't know where she's at. And that's, as a parent, as a grandparent, as a daughter, as a son, family member, that's the worst pain you can have, is not know where your loved one's at. And so today, again, two different things. Closure for the family. Coroner's talked with Adriana's family and giving them as much information as she has. And Freddie Grant knows that we're coming for him and going to have another warrant served on him. So a monster continues to haunt this community. And when I say this community, Gabby's death just didn't touch those here in Columbia, in Northeast Columbia. It was throughout the state, throughout this nation. And Adriana's case was the same way. It reached throughout the United States, and the fact that here was a missing lady needed to be found. Through the grace of God, she's now been found. Through the grace of God, we're going to continue to investigate Freddie Grant, and there's other things that he may be involved in. We're going to continue to work those too. We're never going to stop. We're never going to be satisfied until we find every victim that Freddie Grant had. That monster caused so much pain to so many people, and we're going to make sure that he's held accountable for everything that he's ever done.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. When I spoke with the family of Adriana Laster, they said this to me, and they wanted me to share it with all of you. They just wanted a pinky. She said to me, we just needed to know that she was dead, to not know where she was. They said we just wanted a pinky, just one little bone to tell us that she was gone, and now we have that. So to be able to offer that amount of closure to the family is certainly a humbling experience, but it allows us to be able to give them the closure that they need. They have to process and deal with this on their own. They're going through some things on their own in terms of knowing. I think it's one thing to think about it, but to actually know that she is gone certainly opens up a lot of wounds for them. So we are able to give them that closure. They won't be able to receive her body right away because, again, we're trying to complete the skeletal remains search to see how much we can give to them. We want to try to find as complete a skeleton as possible in this process. I'd like to be able to answer questions at this time. I do want to acknowledge that the town of Elgin is here, the mayor, the sheriff, police department. They've worked tirelessly over the years, and we thank them for their service and what they provided to the family, and the family wanted to make sure that I publicly thank them along with the Richland County Sheriff's Department. So thank you. Go ahead.
What was discovered and what led to that discovery?
I'd like to not go over exactly what parts of her were discovered. I've shared that with the family so they know what we have. But there's some things that we'd like to try to keep close to the chest as the Sheriff's Department continues to try to interview Freddie and see what he may tell them.
How long do you expect it to take to possibly find all of her remains?
We are going to search until we can't find anything else. There's a pretty large area that we are searching. We got through probably about a fourth of it this morning when South Carolina Public Works brought out the larger machine to help dig through the sandy area. So we're hoping that by next Tuesday we will have at least completed the search in that area. And once we've done that, once we've gotten down to ground level, then we'll stop the search, but not until then.
Sheriff, are these two crimes related, to Gabby and Adriana, and what makes you guys confident that it was Freddie Grant?
They are related in that Freddie Grant's a common denominator. He lived close. He knew Adriana. He was a suspect. He was the suspect from day one. We were all very confident he was responsible for her death. Being able to prove it was something else because we needed her. That would have helped to have her. Now we have her, so that's why with Elgin's arrest warrant they have for murder, he's going to be charged with it today.
Sheriff, would you recommend the death penalty in this case, given that there are now 2 victims associated with Freddie Grant?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him dead, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. I mean, he's a monster that deserves to be on this earth. That unfortunately, in order to recover Gabby, back when we did, we had to make a deal with the monster, and we did. That was only after his daughter was arrested, and to keep her from going to jail, he led us to where Gabby was, and he pled to 30 years. Yeah. Maybe that's a good enough punishment for him not to sit in a jail cell probably the rest of his life.
Why do you believe there are more victims?
There's at least one more death that we're pretty sure that he did. Again, we have to prove it. But we have time on our side. Just like you see in this case, time is there. We're not going to stop. You know, Elgin's not going to stop. Kershaw County Sheriff's Department's not going to stop. We're not going to stop. So we're going to continue to work these cases.
I'm not sure if you can answer this or if this is a question for Elgin, but what were the details around Miss Laster's disappearance?
She just disappeared. She was last seen
Going to church.
Going to church, and that's when she disappeared.
And
But there is a connection with her and Freddie Grant. So this was not a stranger
Right.
abduction and murder. This was not. And just like Gabby was not a stranger abduction and murder. There was a knowledge that the victim and Freddie had.
Coroner, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but was this an accidental discovery? How did the remains first come on you guys' radar?
There was a worker who was excavating a large area of sand. I mean, it's a sand mine, and he was digging, and he scooped, and then he dumped. And when he did the dump, that's when he saw the skeletal remains, and there were some other items found in that dump that he did. And so I've been asked this question just in emails and different things about why we would say that this was a homicide. She didn't bury herself. This is not some suicide. She didn't dig this hole herself. This wasn't accidental by any means. We know that this area was an area that was not a populated area. There was no road there. Someone had to go and find this. And just as the sheriff has mentioned, where Mr. Grant lived is very close to where this site is. And so we will definitely be looking at this case as a homicide only, because she didn't bury herself, and we know that. So are there any other questions?
Coroner, what goes into the process of determining the cause of death with bones that are 10 years older?
Well, we look for certain things. So there are certain markings on bones. Let's say, and this did not happen. We don't have any evidence of this. This is just an example. But if we saw marks on the bones, then we would know that this person had potentially been cut up. The bones that we have, we don't see that. And because we have two of the larger bones of the body, we don't see where this could have possibly been, where someone may have sawed her or something like that. So our goal is to try to find as much of her as possible so that we can try to determine cause of death. But when you have soft tissue injuries, once you've gotten down to the skeletal remains, sometimes you won't be able to see those soft tissue injuries. So like blunt force trauma, where someone may have had their spleen damaged or their liver damaged or their heart damaged, you won't see those things because we no longer have the benefit of having the organs when we just have skeletal remains. But if there was any blunt force trauma that caused broken bones or fractures, we will x-ray those bones. We'll take a deep dive into them and see what we can find. But right now, we do not have a cause of death.
Sheriff, is this investigation kind of a message to other criminals or people that would commit a crime that you're not going to get away with it here in Richland County?
Yeah, I mean, also Kershaw County and Elgin too. I mean, we don't forget, just like the victims' families don't forget, we don't forget either. So, we may not make an arrest quickly, but we're going to make an arrest eventually.
How close were Ms. Laster's remains found to Gabby Swinson? And do you have any knowledge on what the land was being used for before it became a sand pit?
Gabby was found not too far away where Ms. Laster was found. And the method that Freddie used with Gabby was the same as what Ms. Laster was found. There's similarities in the burial site. And so there's, I guess if you want to say his MO on how he did things, that matches.
For the future, like, will anybody be able to operate anything on that particular part of the land, anywhere on that particular part of the land until like the investigation is like complete, where no one can like work on it or anything? Like, if y'all still kind of looking around?
Not while we're working. We have the area sectioned off, so no one will be able to go into that area. We have the Richland County Sheriff's Department sitting on that area. Our deputies are out there every single morning until the sun goes down, and we're actively searching. So until we finish our search, there will be no work done in that area. And we want to thank the landowners who have those businesses out there. It certainly is costing them time and money to have us see, but they also want to see Adriana come home.
And with those remains, like, is there a guess of how deep he may have buried her, like when they came across him?
Well, I'll let the sheriff kind of
Does that make sense?
address.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, similar to what how Gabby was buried. So yes, there's similarities, but I'm not going to discuss that part. That's something that we're not going to talk about here.
All right.
Would
All
you
right,
mind
thank you guys so
spelling
much.
Adriana for us?
Adriana. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.